If you're an entrepreneur, SMME living in South Africa, I'm sure you would agree with me that getting funding is a nightmare and a half. So today I want to speak to you about how you can get funding for your small business in South Africa. Thinkers and leaders, movers and shakers, I want to welcome you and thank you for tuning in. My name is Luphumlo Joka, and I run Global Leadership Consultants, where I work with a number of leaders and entrepreneurs from all walks of life. I want to say thank you. I want to start by saying thank you to all of you that have been giving us feedback. I know we haven't been posting or putting out as much content as we would love to. In fact, we haven't put out any content in the past couple of months. Trying to change that, but I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for the emails. Thank you for the calls. It's been crazy. We've been getting emails and calls from people as far as Johannesburg and all over South Africa because of some of the content that we've put out on SMMEs and how SMMEs can grow and how you can leverage some opportunities that exist there for your business. Now, as I said, today I want to speak to you about this funding thing, which is a difficult thing to speak about because there's so many perspectives and opinions and all of that. Now, the disclaimer for me here is that I'm not an expert in this. I've spent some time, invested some time in assisting a couple of SMMEs that have been approved for a few funding institutions here and there. So I am by no means saying that I'm an expert and I know it all. And I am, in fact, looking forward to hearing from some of you out there that might have different opinions and perspectives. Now, this particular video is brought to you by King Shine. King Shine, they are a business in Port Elizabeth. They manufacture car cleaning products and they own 2 car washes. I've been working with them for quite some time now, and the guys are doing so well. So if you are in Gqeberha, in Port Elizabeth, please make some time and go and check them out, King Shine. Let me start by saying this statement. The best funder for your business is always your customer base. The best funder for your business is always your customer base. And I'm saying that because in working with entrepreneurs, I've made tons of mistakes, and part of the mentality and the mindset that we've come across, or the approach that we've seen in a lot of entrepreneurs, is that they would start a business, apply for funding, and then wait and base their whole business operations on that one particular fund that they've applied for. And it doesn't work like that. 80-90% of the time, they don't get that fund, and then everything falls apart. So the best funder for your business is your customer. What does that mean? It means that all of these things that I'm going to speak about are secondary things. They're not primary. They shouldn't be the core focus of your business. So if you've got an idea, a product or service that you offer, the best possible way to fund that idea or service or product or enterprise or organization is obviously through going out and selling, building relationships, talking to people, and making sure that your product or your service is out there. I mean, that worked wonders for me. I started my business almost 10 years ago with $500, right? And it has grown leaps and bounds since then. And what assisted me back then wasn't funding. I got funded actually 3 or 4 years into the business. What assisted me was marketing my business in a robust way, meeting new people, talking to new people, getting mentors, and expanding my product and service base, okay? So the best funder is always your customer. So don't sit and wait for funding. Get started and let funding find you on your way to success, if that makes any sense. So here it goes. I want to speak to you about 4, 5, or 6 possible avenues for funding in South Africa. And this is particularly made for South African-based businesses. So, number 1, where do I get funding as an SMME? This is what I tell most people. Business competitions. A lot of guys are sleeping on business competitions or business-related competitions. There are so many competitions that are run by different entities and organizations in South Africa and even internationally on an annual basis. So where do you go and look for funding? From time to time, I would say take some time out of your business, put some time aside, and look out for business-related competitions. Often what happens is when you win a competition, a business-related competition, there's an incentive. There's a bit of money that you get for your performance and all of that. So I know that one famous one would be the Race Cop Engine Pitch and Polish competition, where they offer R1 million. That's a lot of money, R1 million for the winner of that pitch and polish. I'm not sure what the second and third prizes are, but it's R1 million up for grabs for the person that wins that pitch and polish competition. What is it? It's a competition. So I would advise you as an SMME, on a monthly basis, take a day, take an hour, take 2 hours in your business and look out and just do a mapping of competitions that are within your area or within your province. So business competitions. Number 2, enterprise and supplier development programs, okay? Enterprise and supplier development programs. There are so many people that I know that have been funded by or through enterprise and supplier development programs. Now, if you understand the triple BE space very, very well, you would know that, companies, bigger organizations have to spend a bit of money in enterprise and supplier development programs in order for them to get some BE or triple BE points, okay? So sometimes that money is not only spent on training and coaching and mentorship. Sometimes you get really, really nice programs that after they've trained, after they've coached you, after they've assisted you, they inject a bit of capital into your business. So look out for those type of programs. And I think one of the best of those programs that I've seen in the country is the Toloana Enterprise Program. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but it's the SABS program, where, every year I think they get just north of 6,000 applicants and they choose, I think they choose about just under 100 of those from those 6,000, fly up to Cape Town, train you, mentor you. Then after you've completed the program, I've heard from one gentleman in Umtata that he received, I think, close to 200,000 rands in grant funding. And that's what you want. I always say to people, always prioritize funds that you don't have to pay back. That makes more sense, right? So business competitions, look out for enterprise and supplier development programs. Usually those programs will be sector specific. So, whatever sector you're in, look at the big guys that have a bit of money to spend on developing their suppliers that are within their specific sector. So if you're a mechanic, look at VW, look at I think I just saw the Mazda Foundation is also doing something similar. Look at the big guys, look at the corporates that have a bit of money to spend in sector specific ESD programs. 3 is grant funding. Okay. And I think this is the one that we all know, grant funding, but even grant finance is so deep and so broad that a lot of people don't understand it. Okay. So obviously many of us know of public grant funding schemes or funding institutions. So those would be the National Youth Development Agency. If you're in the Eastern Cape, you'd speak about LRED, the Local Regional Economic Development Fund, which sits under the Department of Economic Development. So there are quite a number of grant funding institutions or programs that are out there. But equally so, a lot of people don't know that even within the private sector, there are quite a number of grant funding opportunities, so to say, okay? I just heard, I think it was just beginning of the year, I was doing a workshop in Middleburg and I had invited, quite a number of government funding institutions. One of them was the Department of Rural Development. They also had some grant funding opportunities. But I had heard that there's a particular bank that is red that offers grant finance from time to time. I think it's up to 100,000 rand. I heard it for the first time and I was shocked. Okay, so grant finance can come from the public sector and from the private sector. And maybe we must do a full video on just grant finance and what is out there, and what the latest opportunities are. Then obviously you get loans, right? So I had a very negative perception towards loans when I started the business until I met a couple of mentors. In fact, one particular mentor that challenged me on this. So loans are a thing, right? Business loans. And, same applies even when it comes to business loans. You get public loans and you get private loans. Usually the public loans that are there to assist entrepreneurs are not there to make money off you, right? They're there to just assist you. That's the approach. For instance, in fact, all over the country, the Department of Small Business Development, I think 2 years ago, launched the Township Rural Entrepreneurship Program, TRAP, right? Which is a blended finance program where you get a bit of grant finance and a bit of loan funding. Okay, so business competitions, enterprise and supply development programs, grant funding, loan funding, blended finance initiatives. Right, I just spoke about the TRAP thing, which is a blended finance initiative. From government that says we'll give you, if you want 200,000 rands. And this is what's so nice about this TRAP funding program. 200,000 rands, X amount of it will be grant, X amount of it will be a loan, okay? But here's the thing when it comes to all of, especially government-related funding institutions, is that, number one, it takes time. So that's the difference between private and public. Private, they're very efficient, they're very quick. Public, they get so many applications, and sometimes some people or some institutions have incompetent people, so it takes time. I just went back last week to a certain organization. I'm not going to name them because they're my client. Certain organization where I put in an application last year, got to them, followed up on the application, and they told me that they lost all of those applications. So and I'm sitting hoping and praying that my application is being processed, but only to find out a couple of months later that it wasn't even submitted because that particular business or person that I submitted to lost all of those applications, okay? So so when we approach funding, when it comes to government, whether it's loan or grant funding, we must always bear in mind that these people are busy, these people are overworked, sometimes these people are incompetent, sometimes these people just don't care, right? And so we must go the extra mile just in terms of following up and in terms of being merciful and in terms of just building relationships with the people that we want funding from, okay? So that would be blended finance, okay? Then for, many years ago, a friend of mine I went to varsity with raised money at varsity for a new business idea through private investors, okay? So that's also a thing where people who've got a bit of money are willing to invest in small businesses, okay? But the thing with that, and this is what I've struggled with for quite a number of years, is where do you find these people? Where do they live? What communities are they in? Okay, so so if you can have access to these type of people, obviously, then hip hip hooray for you. But private investors, people that want to invest in small businesses, it's a thing. Okay, some would find private investors within their families. For other people, they would pitch, in certain competitions too. So wherever you can find them, I think private investors loaning you money or even buying a stake in your business. And that's the thing, right, with private investors is that if I'm giving you 100,000 rand, I want a chunk of your business. I want a piece of the pie, and so always be mindful of those dynamics. And then the last one would be venture capital funding. Venture capital funding. I personally don't think that there's the venture capital space in South Africa is that big, but I'm sure you guys are aware of My Growth Fund, companies like My Growth Fund that will pull different funds from different investors and that would invest in different ventures. So in other countries or even in South Africa, people would then approach a venture capital firm for finance, right? And usually it is in the form of a bit of equity or sometimes a loan, okay? So I've just listed 7 things or 7 different areas that you can look at, that you can consider, precisely because a lot of SMMEs and entrepreneurs are always adamant on one lane, which is grant funding from the government, not realizing or not really being intentional about exploring all of these other opportunities, enterprise supply development programs, competitions, the different funding instruments. So if you are particularly in the Eastern Cape, I would say to you, don't sleep on the local regional economic development fund. Don't sleep on the Eastern Cape Development Corporation, ECDC. I know that they've got a, what is it called? A micro enterprise fund that they have, which is, I think it's fairly new. They've also got a film investment fund, which is fairly new. So they've got quite a number of nice incentives. I think that the new chairperson of the board is doing a great job at ECDC because we're seeing all of these things happening and we're seeing so much momentum. So don't sleep on these things. And hopefully, if you apply, you'll get a positive response. So don't sleep on these things, and wishing you all the best for your business.